I'd like to call to order a regular meeting of the Watchung Borough Board of Education on June 23rd, 2022 at 7 p.m. May we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Welcome to a meeting of the Board of Education of the Borough of Watchung. Please be advised that this and all meetings of the board are open to the public and media consistent with the Open Public Meetings Act, and that the advance notice required therein has been provided. This is a regular meeting of the Board of Education of the Borough of Watchung at which formal action may be taken. This meeting is being live streamed on the district website, where a recording of the meeting also will be posted. The public will have an opportunity to be heard as shown on the agenda at points in the meeting provided for the public to address the board. Recording or photographing other than for private personal use requires the consent of parents/guardians whose children may be included in the image. May we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Barbella?
Here.
Mr. Buccarelli?
Here.
Mrs. Harvey?
Here.
Mr. Ingrassia? Not here. Mr. McDonald?
Here.
Mrs. Murad? Ms. Zedvani?
Here.
Mrs. Scharf?
Here.
We have 6 board members present.
Thank you. If it's okay with everyone, I would like to move the special recognition of Adam Kraft first. Are there any objections? Okay.
Hi, Adam. All right. Proclamation in honor of Adam Kraft. Whereas Adam Kraft generously served for 2.5 years on the Watchung Borough Board of Education from January 2020 through June 2022. And whereas Adam Kraft encouraged philanthropy and public-private partnerships to strengthen the spirit of the community to enrich the quality of life and education in Watchung now and in the future. And whereas Adam Kraft was a dedicated member of the Operations Finance Committee, HR Personnel Committee, and the Curriculum Committee, serving as chair of the Curriculum Committee in 2021 to 2022. And whereas Adam Kraft represented the Watchung Borough Board of Education as a selfless advocate for education, appearing at community events, and even donning the Bayberry Bear costume to welcome the students back to school in September 2020. And whereas Adam Kraft brought invaluable experience to board issues with his technology background, business knowledge, passion for education, and whereas Adam Kraft worked with parents, education professionals, and other community members to create the educational vision we want for our students, and whereas Adam Kraft practiced independent thinking, gave invaluable guidance to the board, made decisions in the best interests of students and the community, and whereas Adam Kraft supported creating a full-day preschool before and after care program and summer programs that provided extended time for a variety of experiences and greater opportunity for high quality instruction and interaction between teachers and students. And whereas Adam Kraft welcomed new board members and promoted the importance of the board members' commitment and responsibility. And whereas Adam Kraft maintained high expectations for the students, staff, and community and advocated for academic excellence. And whereas Adam Kraft successfully reinforced the district's initiatives through its most unprecedented time during the COVID-19 pandemic by encouraging support for students and staff, along with new learning and extracurricular opportunities for students. And whereas Adam Kraft served on the board with integrity and respect for our community, volunteering countless hours with a mission to make this district the best it could be. And whereas Adam Kraft's experience, enthusiasm, commitment, sense of responsibility, and sense of humor will be greatly missed. And now, therefore, be it resolved that the Watchung Borough Board of Education expresses deep appreciation for Adam Kraft's tireless efforts, valuable service to the district, recognizes all the people he touched through his dedicated volunteerism on the board, and wishes him continued health, happiness, and success in all his future endeavors. Congratulations, and we wish you the absolute best.
That was much more than I expected. And thank you all. It really, I said it last time, it really has been an honor and a privilege serving with each and every one of you. I am going to miss it. I know people joke about it, but I really am going to miss it. And I said it last time too. I encourage anyone who's considered being a part of the board to do it. It is amazing to watch our administration and our staff and our faculty day in and day out commit themselves to our students and commit to making them better people. We saw last meeting, the great test scores, throughout the year, but that just tells part of the story. And, sitting at the Valley View graduation really brought it all home to me. And listening to Chelsea, their school president, their class president speak, how, she came here just a few years ago and felt accepted pretty quickly. And to now be the class president, everything was about kindness and doing the right thing. And it's evident that those kids care about each other, and the faculty and the staff care about each other and the students. And that starts from the top down. And that's you guys. That's the Board of Ed. That's you, Mr. Alexis. That's the principals. That's you, Mr. Pepe. That's everyone from the top down. And as a parent of students, I can't thank you enough for that, for what you've done, what you do, what you continue to do. So thank you. Thank you all so much.
Thank you, Adam. Okay, we're going to move on to Board of Education retreat facilitated by Gwen Thornton, our New Jersey School Board Association representative. I think the first thing is the board self-evaluation summary. That's what we have, but I'll just leave it up to you, Gwen, on whatever you want to do.
Okay, well, thank you very much. And congratulations. I know they're going to miss you. I'm going to miss you. We hate losing good board members. So I just want to, it's touching. So you all received a copy via email of the board self-evaluation. It's an excellent evaluation. You also received some information around committee of the whole versus the committee system. And in your packet is just a further information for you that I included. I'm not going to do that presentation this evening, but certainly if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer those too as well. So the purpose of your self-evaluation is really sort of the concluding experience to the board year. You've held the superintendent accountable for his performance through his evaluation, and then you look at how you have worked as a board throughout the course of the year. And it's probably the best self-evaluation I have seen from the Watchung board in the last 5 to 8 years. You are to be commended for obviously the work that you are doing. And so you've identified a couple of pieces that you still may have some concerns around. But I was very pleased to see when you identified the relative value of the work you do, that student achievement came in first. And that's very clear from the work that you're doing, followed by planning. And I know that, that's a critical piece, certainly around the potential referendum and putting that back out there to make sure that you're keeping your facilities up to date and where you want them and need them to be. You've identified the challenges that you face, and I'm delighted to say that those challenges that you've identified are mostly around finance referendum, capital projects, but more importantly, the learning loss, social emotional support, mental health supports for your students, setting that expectation and that bar high for all students. And those, I think, are going to be addressed tonight when we talk about district goals for next year. And incorporating those pieces are incorporated in the suggested goals that Dr. Alexis sent to all of you as well. In terms of board goals, we're going to talk about those as well. Certainly, continuing to build your team and to work together effectively and through communications is an important piece for all of you. Certainly, it has been a challenging year. Our title for goal setting this year is Forging Ahead Together in Hope that in this coming September will be a regular year as we know it. And that is our hope for all districts. I'm sure it's the hope of every parent, every student, every faculty member, every board member, that we can sort of get back to a new normal. So questions around your self-eval that I can respond to? No? Okay. Then I would like to move forward with talking about goal setting. You've done this before. This is part of your annual goal setting, and I commend you for, and if I turn on the clicker, that helps, for continuing to do that. Clearly, when we talk about goals, it's about looking at this past year and what we've learned from this past year, what we've accomplished, what still needs to be done, perhaps moving forward, and then preparing for September of the 2022 school year in 23. It's hard to believe that another year has passed, again, very quickly. And it's really about reflecting when you have time, and I know it's hard to find that time as board members, about what we've learned through the last 2 years as we sort of move forward, about resiliency, around the commitment of your staff, the ability of you and your staff members to pivot when needed, and certainly about parental commitment to the education of their children, and the opportunities that technology has presented to us, also the limitations of that technology, and the importance of the relationship between students and teachers, between board members with one another, between the administration and the Board of Education, that all of those are critical components in the success of your district. But we also know there are opportunity gaps that occurred as a result of COVID, both last year and this year. Less this year, witness that you were able to do graduation in person. I'm sure you did field day in person this year, and all of those things that we count on that provide stability and continuity for our students that they love and adore having. So making sure that moving forward, you are setting very clear goals around student achievement and classroom instruction, that remains your priority, which you demonstrated through your self-eval that it was, and making sure that you are providing equitable opportunities and access to the entire curriculum for every student within your school district at the time in which they need that. We know from research through Iowa study and through other studies that have been done that those districts that have the highest level of support are those districts that don't accept excuses. It's not about those children who don't have, or believing that race or lack of parental support perhaps, or involvement or other factors are impediments to student learning. They are just simply challenges that we all need to overcome, and that it's possible for every child to find success. And looking to expect that success from every child is critically important. Making sure that you have a shared vision around why you do what you do. And I think you all have been very clear about what your vision is for Watchung. And I think that's an important piece to continue to communicate to your community about the value of the public education that you provide to all of the students. Making sure that you're supporting your vision through the development of policy and through providing support through your budget for those opportunities for students, and making sure you understand your roles and responsibilities as providing oversight, developing policy, communicating effectively with the community, but not getting involved in the day-to-day operation of the district and leaving that to your educational leaders and experts. Okay. So we've talked a little bit about why you set these goals. Clearly, it identifies for your community what your priorities are. And I think that's an important piece. It helps everyone to stay on the same page. And I think it is a means of holding yourselves accountable as well as your administration accountable for the performance of the district. And my favorite reason to do goal setting is, of course, Yogi Berra, which I'm actually old enough to remember having seen him play in Yankee Stadium, which is getting to be, that's scary, right, Rich, that I remember that, but I do. Of course, I was 2. No, I was older than that. If you don't know where you're going, you might end up someplace else. And that's why it really is, it's hysterical, but it is also the reason to plan, because if you don't plan, you could end up somewhere where you don't want to be, okay? So we talk all the time about the different kinds of goals, and just as a review, tonight we're going to talk about district goals, which are set by your administration with approval and input from the board. And they refer to the overall operation of the district, whether it's the instructional program, personnel, professional development, finance, facilities, all of those pieces they are responsible for. And we'll talk a little bit about board goals, and board goals refer solely to how you operate your processes and procedures and how you can be more effective in supporting the vision and the mission of the district and supporting your administration as they work to accomplishing those bigger district goals. So there are all of those areas where you can think of goals. And as you think about those, you know, the most important piece to be thinking about is what should be our focus? What needs the greatest amount of attention? Where can we get the biggest bang for every educational dollar that we spend on behalf of the taxpayer and community members who support your district? You know, how are we going to make sure that we're addressing the social emotional needs of students? Again, you know, it has been 2 years of disruption for kids. And we have seen increases in many districts of HIB, of mental health and disciplinary issues at different times, because it has been so disruptive. So looking at those things and thinking about them, in addition to all of those pieces, the essential knowledge around the New Jersey Student Learning Standards and all of the curricular areas, making sure that we are helping our students to be critical thinkers, collaborative problem solvers. These are all pieces that business and industry are looking for in graduates as they move forward out into the workplace, that they're digitally literate, that they're civically responsible and how to give back to their communities, that they have a love of learning for the sake of learning, and that they're moral, ethical, and empathetic human beings, which is critically important every day. As you pick up the newspaper or turn on CNN or turn on any radio station, the world needs more of those kinds of folks out there, okay? Here were the district goals from 2020-21. I'm not going to read them. I know that you've received updates, and this has provided the basis for the superintendent's evaluation. And here are the suggested goals that Dr. Alexis shared with all of you: developing academic enrichment opportunities for students through personalized learning, inquiry, and collaborative problem solving; enhance and diversify strategies for communication with the community with a focus on the website and social media. Again, it's meeting people where they are, and more people are on social media. That's how they get their information. So that's a wonderful piece. Strengthening the SEL, the social emotional wellness of students and staff, and continuing to promote a culturally vibrant, inclusive community, and preparing for and leading the district through the CUSAC monitoring process, which, as you know, is that every 3-year state monitoring process that takes place, that takes a lot of administrative time to put together all of the documentation necessary to do that. So I would ask the board for your feedback or thoughts on these, because I know that you've had these goals for a little while, that they were shared with you. If that comports with what you think should be your focus.
I definitely appreciated the strengthening social emotional wellness. We have had a rise in HIB cases, so having that on, I think, is really important for our district, especially for September.
And I will tell you, you're not alone, which is why I mentioned it. That's occurring in many districts all across the state. And I think it's just a result of the inconsistency of life in the last 2 years for kids. It's been challenging for staff too. I'm not diminishing that, but we're adults and we found it hard. Think of what it's like to be a child in that circumstance. Any other comments?
Yeah, I agree with Dory. I think that's a very important goal, and I can't believe we're getting ready for the CUSAC process again. I feel
again.
like we just finished that.
I know.
so it's-
It happens
Time
every
flies.
3 years. It happens every 3 years. So you're comfortable with adopting those? Yes, okay. Well, that was easy. Okay, so the next step in the process, as you know, is that your administration in collaboration with the staff will be developing action plans, which will outline the specific tasks that will be undertaken to move the district closer to achieving those, who will be involved in terms of personnel, what is the timeline for that? You know, it's not all going to happen in September, you know, it's a year-long process. And then what is the status? So again, one of the things that I included in your packet is a copy of our annual calendar. And one of the things that popped up in your self-eval as well is around planning. So what I would suggest is, as you begin to think about September for the fall and into, and even through January, through all of next year, even after reorg, perhaps putting in quarterly the dates of your board meetings for updates on progress toward the goals, so that that doesn't get lost in the press of regular business. And I thought having the annual calendar might be helpful, just so that you can identify those dates by virtue of your board meetings, and that way it's put onto the agenda. You have them, it helps the public to know that you're moving forward, and it reminds all of you that that work is being accomplished. Okay, which is why I sort of included that calendar. Okay. Board goals really are looking at how you can be more effective. Clearly, policy was not an issue. Oversight and monitoring really wasn't a piece. The communication, both internal and external, I would tell you, I think is maybe part of a continuing challenge, but it is a challenge for most boards of education all across the state. That's not something new. So it's about what kind of professional development do you believe as a board would improve your governance? And then how will that help to support your district goals? Okay. So, you know, here are some examples: completing the superintendent's evaluation within the statutory timeline. You guys are very good at that. You do that every year, but I have lots of boards that really struggle. In fact, I just looked at my email and I had a board that just literally started today, and the deadline is July the 1st. So you're doing really well in that domain, but lots of boards struggle with that. Review your bylaws to make sure that they reflect current practice. And again, you know, you may need to continue to look at policy as things continue to evolve and change. You know, that's always something that's important. Exploring the option of committee of the whole or separate committees. Again, that's something that you wanted information on that I got to you already. But again, if you're going to make a change in that area, I would recommend waiting until reorganization, because you're so far into this seated board year that it would not make much sense at this point to switch mid-year. But if it's something that you think you're interested in doing, you could explore it for January when you reorganize. Okay, so we'll talk about last year's goals and then think about what you want to do moving forward. So last year, it was to continue to do PD as a board, to work toward the elimination of inherent bias, promote equity and inclusion, to ensure a school climate where all students can succeed, completing the negotiations with the teachers, and developing a collaborative vision to support innovation and educational excellence.
So those were what you had put together for last year. I know that it is really hard to find separate evenings to do PD for the board, but there were some opportunities that you did take advantage of and that we did work on. But I would ask you if, I'm assuming that negotiations are completed, or are you still in that process? They're ongoing. So you could carry that goal, if you would like, forward into 22, 23. You don't have to carry it as a board goal because you're going to have to do it regardless because it has to be done. You don't have to have that as a goal if you don't choose to. I think the shared visual, excuse me, the shared vision piece is fine. I know that Dory asked all of you to submit anything that you thought was important. And there was a suggestion to continue the first goal, again, to continue to engage in that process, which I think is very worthwhile. The second is around that school referendum to make sure that it gets completed. And so that you will have the kind of facilities that you want for your students moving forward. Again, developing a shared vision around Board of Education norms. I think particularly in the area of communications, this might be a helpful piece to do some professional development in terms of setting some shared norms about how we are going to operate and function, sort of a SOP, standard operating procedures, before the meetings, during the meetings, after the meetings. And then how are we going to communicate among and between ourselves? And how are we going to effectively communicate with our community so that you all have a shared sense of this is how we function, this is how we operate. And I think that's very important, especially since now you're going to have a brand new board member to replace Adam. And you may have new folks come January as well. So I think that'll be an important piece to have that in place so that when your new folks come on and you do onboarding with them, you'll be able to share that and everyone will have a common sense of understanding about how we function. And I think that would be very helpful. And again, you know, that aligns with your fostering supportive working environment and straightforward communication, because I think that that's something where the board could really benefit from. And then preparing to develop a 5-year strategic plan. I can't believe you've already we're at that point again for 2024, 2028. Okay. Thoughts? It's ambitious. You might not get through all of it, but I think it's important to try.
Well, some of it we have to do, so. it's- I mean, regardless of whether we make it a board goal or not. I was curious, and I did email you about number 5. Would we, I know usually for the 5-year strategic plan, New Jersey School Boards is available, and then sometimes boards go and outsource a company to help them with that with the community. Would we start planning that?
You should
this
plan
next
it.
year?
You should plan it because it'll be in the next board year. It wouldn't be in this board year. It'll be in the 23-24 board year. So planning for that and deciding how you want to approach that with your administration is probably a very good board goal, so that you'll be prepared and get it kicked off right away so that you'll have it for that time frame. It's sort of a shared goal between your administration and the board, because obviously it's the board's responsibility, but you needed your administration input, support, documentation.
I don't know if anyone else has any comments or questions.
I just wanted to. Can you hear? Yeah, it's on. I just wanted to thank you, Gwen. I think you've always been so clear, expressing the goals and facilitating conversations that I know it's a hard job, but you've done it fabulously.
Well, thank you very much. I love what I do. I think I have the best job in the world. I get to work with volunteers who love kids, who promote education. And I don't think there's anything more valuable. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart. I'm a former teacher, I'm a parent and a grandparent. I think there's nothing more important to our futures than this. I really do. So I'm delighted to be able to do this work. I really am. And I love doing this work, actually. It has its challenges, but it's always different and it's always interesting. And I always get to meet great people. So for me, it's really not like work. So thank you. Okay. If anyone have any other question? This seems too easy. I'm like, okay.
I think that before we never did it this way, where we made sure we had it on the board agenda for everyone to discuss at least 2 board meetings before this. So I think that that really helped
It does.
all of us. So
It does. It makes a great difference. And thank you for your commitment to doing it that way and for focusing on the goals. You're to be congratulated because it really is important to do and important work. So I'm going to take my leave, but wish all of you the most peaceful, calm, quiet, and healthy summer. Okay, stay well. If you need anything, you know how to get me. I'm always around. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
thank you.
Thank you
All
for your
right,
guidance.
my pleasure.
Thank you, Gwen. Okay, can I have a motion to go into executive session?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Mr. Pepe, can you please read the reason for us going into executive session?
Whereas the Open Public Meetings Act, NJSA 10:4-11, permits the Board of Education to meet in closed session to discuss certain matters. Now, therefore, be it resolved, the Board of Education adjourns to closed session to discuss a matter rendered confidential by federal or state law, student matters, and specific prospective or current employees, unless all who could be adversely affected request an open session, which they have not. Be it further resolved, the minutes of this closed session will be made public when the need for confidentiality no longer exists. And the closed session will be followed by an open session where action will be taken.
Can I have a motion to come out of executive session?
So moved.
A s-
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we're going to move on to the superintendent's remarks.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Harvey. First, I want to thank the board, the administrative leadership team, the faculty, staff, students, families, and community members for their ongoing support this year. As Gwen said earlier in the meeting, it's been a long year, right? And there have been more than a few challenges, but we're optimistic for September, and we're looking forward to summer for a chance to plan and prepare and rejuvenate as we get ready for September.
Sounds like Dory.
It's like,
It's a slight delay.
No, it was you. It was like the. You had to. We all right?
I also want to thank our parent organizations, the PTO, CPAG, and WEF, for their generous donations and support of our students and staff this year. The students enjoyed, in particular, the 8th grade celebration at Forest Lodge. We really appreciated the efforts of the 8th grade parent committee, which is part of the PTO. But overall, the last month of school, we had field days and field trips, student performances and assemblies, a kindergarten move-up ceremony, and a lovely outdoor 8th grade commencement. And that was a great speech, Mr. Barbella. Thank you for participating in that. And it just all set the year up for a very fun, celebratory closing. One quick note about the agenda, the revised safe reopening plan is on the agenda this evening and it'll be posted on the website tomorrow. Basically, the plan summarizes our current health and safety protocols and notes that protocols may be revised based on evolving federal, state, and local requirements. As we move forward, this is part of a requirement based on the federal grants that the state received, and we need to comply with that every 6 months. The enrollment reports remain steady at 641, which is 25 more students than we had enrolled at the start of the year and represents an increase of 37 students from September 2020. And that'll do it for this section of the agenda. Thank you, everyone, and best wishes for summer.
Thank you, George. We'll move on to committee reports. Rich, can you please give an update on the ad hoc referendum committee?
Yeah, I'm not going to give a full update because we haven't had the minutes yet, but I do want to advise the board of one thing that's going on, which is that the committee decided in lieu of a survey, which we didn't think would be that productive, that we send a communication to the community asking them for their input, simply, open-ended on the referendum. We're sending that out through various means of email, correct, Rich? The town and the town and the school email list?
Yeah, we're going to send it out through our school messenger email blasts. We'll send it out to the borough and ask them for however many ways they can help get the word out to the community using blasts, possibly other means of posting that we've spoken about in the past.
Correct. And then there was a strong feeling by certain members of the committee that we also do this in some kind of physical form rather than just digital. And as Dory likes to call it, the Washington Post deadline had Watchung Post. The Watchung Post, I do it too. Deadline had passed. And the town was not putting out another newsletter in timely fashion. So I think we did contact the Echo Sentinel, and what I'd like to do is have a discussion, I guess during the operations committee resolutions, and add one that we agree to spend. It's like $600 for a half a page. It's $1,200 for a full page and $300 for a quarter page to put in the Echo Sentinel, which is half price and in color for free, by the way. So we can pick which one we want to do. And I think we ought to just approve that and get it out. But that's my own opinion. And that's it.
Sure.
We'll give a full report next time when the minutes are available.
Rich, you're looking at me. I think he's going to add it onto the operations items to move.
Actually, I think you can just talk about it in board business. It's not something that requires a board
We don't have to vote on it.
vote.
So we
it's
just
during
do
the-
it now then?
I think Mr. Pepe had his eye on the $150 eighth of the page ad.
Are you on the quarter page, Rich? Eighth
Eighth.
of the page?
We actually took a current paper and mapped out an eighth of a
Started
page, and it's a little bigger than you think. It's not that
All
small.
right. Any questions, or is?
I actually have a quick question. The survey, is it possible that it's going to be on our website as well?
It's not a survey, it's a
Sorry. question.
invitation
Invi-
for feedback, right?
Okay, right.
Yeah, we're going to put it on the website as well. Yes.
Thank you.
So you don't want to spring for a quarter of a page, Rich?
It's up to the board. If the board wants me to get a quarter page. I'll get a
I
quarter
just
page.
feel like I don't want to go to the committee and have people say, well, you did it, but it was so small, nobody could read it for $150. I don't really want that feedback.
What's the second biggest?
Quarter.
Quarter. So
Quarter
how
of a
much is
page.
that?
That was
300.
300.
You're suggesting half a page for 600?
I'm suggesting a quarter or a half, but not an eighth.
Quarter.
Yeah.
Quarter's
Quarter's
fine.
good.
Quarter's fine? All right,
Okay.
300
Fine.
sold.
Anyone opposed? All right.
Okay, thank you all.
And we're going to move on to the board liaison reports. Kevin, can you please give us a legislative update?
Yes, the legislature sent 3 bills to the governor last week for his signature. The first bill would establish an electric school bus program. Senate Bill 759 would establish a $45 million 3-year grant program in the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection to help determine the operational reliability and cost effectiveness of replacing diesel-powered school buses with electric school buses. The second bill was Senate Bill S 1800, which would establish a Purple Star Schools program to recognize schools that emphasize the importance of assisting children of military families. And lastly, Senate Bill 525 would enhance and expand the state's current initiatives under the Youth Transitions to Work Partnership Act, which probably doesn't impact us much. And that's all I have.
My only comment
Thank you.
is it would be nice to have bus drivers, no matter what kind of bus we have.
Very
Want to bring
true.
that to the legislature, Kevin?
I'll let them know.
Jen, is there any update from the Somerset County Ed Services Commission?
No, I think our next meeting is July.
Amber, anything from Somerset County School Boards Association?
No, but I did attend the school safety and where do we go from here seminar. And it was a great seminar. They spoke about, if it's okay, they just spoke about how school safety is something that's important that we should be looking into and supporting students emotionally, the teacher and the staff, and creating a culture overall that promotes wellness and especially mental health. And they went on from there to speaking about measures that are attainable and tips and methods that to make your school less vulnerable. So
Okay, great, thank you. And I have no update from the New Jersey School Boards Association since we had our board retreat this evening. Comments from the public on agenda items. We welcome input from the public. There are 2 times during the meeting when the public is invited to speak. The first opportunity to comment on agenda items only is now. The second opportunity for public comment is towards the end of the meeting. Total time allotted for public comment is 30 minutes. Before you make your comment, please state your name and address. In the event it appears the public comment portion of the meeting may exceed 30 minutes, the presiding officer may limit each statement made by a participant to 3 minutes duration. Comments submitted to the board secretary prior to the meeting will be read first. Our public forums are not structured as a question and answer session, but rather are offered as opportunities to share input with the board. In instances where the board feels a response is needed, the presiding officer or superintendent will address the comment. New Jersey statutes do not permit the board to discuss personnel or hiring in public session. Names of students should not be used. Members of the public should consider their comments in light of legal rights of those affected and identified in their comments, and be aware that they are personally legally responsible with potential liability for comments that they make to the board. The board shall not be held liable for comments made by members of the public. Are there any comments from the public? Okay, so I'll move on to action items. Amber, can you please move the administrative items?
I move administrative items A1 through A8.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Barbella,
Yes.
Mr. Buccarelli,
Yes.
Mr. McDonald,
Yes.
Mrs. Murad,
Yes.
Ms. Zedvani,
Yes.
Mrs. Scharf,
Yes.
Mrs. Harvey.
Yes.
Motion's pass.
Kevin, can you please move personnel items?
Yes, I move personnel items, B1, accept resignation, B2, appoint custodian, Bayberry School night shift, B3, appoint student information system liaison, summer 2020, B4, approve special education and related art staff for the 2022 extended school year program revised. B5, approve related services for the 2022 extended school year program revised. B6, approve summer curriculum writers. B7, approve unpaid leave of absence. And those are all.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Barbella,
Yes.
Mr. Buckarelli,
Yes.
Mr. McDonald,
Yes.
Mrs. Murad,
Yes.
Ms. Zadbani,
Yes.
Mrs. Sharf,
Yes.
Mrs. Harvey.
Yes.
Motion's pass.
Rich, can you please move operation items?
Yes, I move item C1, authorize application for submission to IDEA. C2, authorize the application submission to SEA. C3, accept end of year donations from the Watchung PTO with tremendous amount of gratitude. C4, accept donation from Watchung CPAG with tremendous amount of gratitude, as Mr. Alexis alluded to in his remarks. C5, property and casualty insurance renewal. C6, sale of surplus or outdated property as revised.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Barbella,
Yes.
Mr. Buckarelli,
Yes.
Mr. McDonald,
Yes.
Mrs. Murad,
Yes.
Ms. Zadbani,
Yes.
Mrs. Sharf,
Yes.
Mrs. Harvey.
Yes.
Motion's pass.
Jen, can you please move curriculum items?
Yep. I move D1, approve Valley View field trip for 2022, 2023.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
I'm sorry, who was the second? I missed that.
Rich.
Is Rich.
Thank you. Mr. Barbella,
Yes.
Mr. Buckarelli,
Yes.
Mr. McDonald,
Yes.
Mrs. Murad,
Yes.
Ms. Zadbani,
Yes.
Mrs. Sharf,
Yes.
Mrs. Harvey.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Joe, can you please move policy items?
Sure. Move E1, approve policies and regulations for second reading and adoption.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Barbella,
Yes.
Mr. Buckarelli,
Yes.
Mr. McDonald,
Yes.
Mrs. Murad,
Yes.
Ms. Zadbani,
Yes.
Mrs. Sharf,
Yes.
Mrs. Harvey.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, I didn't receive any requests from board members for any other board business to discuss tonight, but is there any board business that we need to discuss?
Dory, did we do, I have like a comment. It's not business. Can I weave it in here? All right. So I did want to share with everyone that I did have the absolute pleasure of attending the Watchung Hills graduation last week. Extra special because my son, I'm completely biased, was graduating, but I will say it was just beautifully done. And it was just great to see all of the kids and the Watchung kids that, you know, I've seen since kindergarten come through these schools, graduate up at Watchung Hills. And I had the pleasure of sitting with Mr. Alexis, and it was amazing. Really special. So if any of you are still on the board when your kids are graduating, it's just special to be able to be there with them.
Thank you, Jen. Okay, we're going to move on to comments from the public. Please remember to state your name and address before speaking. Are there any comments? Okay, can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you for joining us this evening. This meeting is adjourned.